one particular aspect of someone's presentation, you said, you know, I hadn't given any thought to that, but they really pointed out how really important it was to, you know, look at circulation or look at, you know, whatever it is. I need to know that because if the firm you select didn't happen to pick that element, I want to make sure to incorporate that element into the selected firm's program so that you get what you want.
Okay. And is it, I think it's, I don't know, I would like to kind of hear from committee members, you know, why they like what parts of certain firms and, you know, what they did in
Can we start with this, with the...
oh, I've got to find my form.
Okay,
Sorry.
after we've gone through all this, you've already filled it in. I find some parts of these, the score sheet almost
Confusing?
No, not confusing. I've done this with the score sheet a lot, but I'm finding it almost not appropriate to the level that we're now judging that as a poor word. I would just as soon say, and we may not be able to, first, second, third, and fourth to tell you why.
I have a form.
But that's not
I'll
the
get
way
it over
you
here.
said.
And this was based on the RFP that the council approved.
If I may, as long as you have a rational basis for your decision making, and I can refer to, you know, those elements of it.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not a lot of
Oh, I'm not either.
Well, you know, I've
Then I can
one of my
incorporate that.
examples is firm qualifications. Everybody here that is qualified.
So I can't, yeah.
So,
I wouldn't agree with that.
I might
You know,
Usually different levels of
express our
qualification.
opinions, I just don't think we can vote.
Because and then the next one is technical experience. That means the group that, so
Can
firm
we express our
qualifications
opinions?
is
We can express
Does
our
the firm have
opinions, but
the
we just
skill
can't
set?
vote.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
that they need. The
Yeah.
next question is the team they're giving us, because the technical experience is for the team members. So are they giving us those team members? That's two. The number three is obvious. When they presented it, how they do, right? Okay. Because there was a difference, different quality of presentation. Understanding project issues and results, that was sort of the last thing that these guys did on there. They sort of said, you got a lot of parking lots, so that's, you can rate them. Did they each, one firm presented actual concepts? We're starting a mass, we're starting to think, other people said you had a lot of trees, so you can, that's a level of thought they had. Proposed quality work is their work plan, so that's that long spreadsheet. And some had 3 public outreach, some had 0. Okay, so that's very easy to say, how'd you feel about it? You can rate that one a 10.
But they all said it's up for grabs. We'll talk to you about it.
But then we gave, for example, we said to Crystal, so now that you've heard this, what do you think? What'd you think of her response?
I didn't like it.
And don't give her a big score.
I'm not going to.
Okay. Yeah, and then the last one was quality of references, and you can read it. I mean, one firm had we can't talk to you. We asked the question, how'd you feel about his answer?
It wasn't great.
Okay, so, you know, some of the firms said, they didn't do the public outreach. Some of the firms said, well, they were involved, but they weren't lead. So some said, yeah, they were pretty good. We'd probably use it. You can read those references. They're pretty clear. They weren't all rosy. Some of them were neutral. So I think we've got information for all these things. I mean, you can, if you want to force it. You can. Yeah. The things that stood out to me that I care about, since I'm at the floor, Michael take it. The things that jumped out to me from the 4, I know who I like the best by far. I have someone I like first and the second, and then 2 I don't care about. So, but the things that jumped out to me as I was listening to what can't I live with, some of the firms did not have a good face with the public. Some of the firms had people, they stood there and talked, and it was like, that person could be in front of anybody in Atherton. And they would listen and think, oh, they're listening to me, and they had good ideas, and they were fluent and easy to understand, and it was all about the project.
Really good communicators.
Some of the teams were really cohesive. Some of the teams were not. Some of the teams were arguing. Like there was power struggle going on during the presentation for who's in charge. It was really hard to watch. Because some of the people who should have been talking more weren't allowed to. Okay, this last one in particular is what I noticed. There was the question of the comfort with this group. Do you feel comfortable working with the team members? Because that, we're gonna be spending a lot of time with them. And you're gonna feel, there's some from the public and some from us. And then the last one to me is skill set, and some have it in spades and some don't. That's how I felt. So to me, that's my hierarchy.
Can I add one thing, Rusty? That's
Yeah.
a very good summary. One thing I would add, though, is enthusiasm. I don't just mean what they say, but apparent enthusiasm. Were they really excited
Yeah.
about the project?
Yeah.
Or was it like we heard, hey, architecture has been pretty slim for the last 5 years?
Yeah, I got that.
So I think excitement for me and
Yeah.
desire to work on a small project and be really enthusiastic about it is important.
So Gordon, my own feeling is you can fill up all these numbers in every possible way, but I think everybody's got a feel for who's the first one and who's the second one. Is that allowed for us, for everybody else to make that kind of determination?
I guess without the city attorney here, as long as it has to be a rational process. It has to be able to be described, in fact, you and the mayor and 3 other people are gonna get the memo that says, here was the process. We sent an RFP, we got these proposals, we narrowed them down, we asked all the same questions, and we evaluated them based on, and Steve, I think you did an outstanding job of kind of describing that, based on how they presented and how we believe, based on their written and interview presentations, how they will listen to the residents of Atherton, incorporate our interests, and produce a product that we are going to be able to
In
use.
my mind, there were 2 of them that were head and shoulders above the others, and at least in my mind. And, I feel maybe everybody else feels the same way, and so why are we wasting all that time with all these numbers when everybody feels that way? I'm not sure.
You just need to at least articulate some of that concern in the process.
In the
Part of
process, because
right.
this is how they're going to be judged. And
I
this
know.
is in the RFP as how we said we were going to rate them and rank them.
Well, one way to do it,
Mhm.
another numeric way to do it, that is maybe rational, is everybody can take a sheet of paper and write 1, 2, 3, and 4, and put firm on those. 1, for 2, for 3. We add them up, and the low score wins, because 1 is lower than 4. That's another numeric, rational way to do it.
And
It
that's
doesn't
what we
tell you
have.
why you pick these firms.
That
only works if
everybody
has to vote for all.
That's right, everybody has to vote for all 4, you
Okay.
can't say I'm
Yeah.
only voting for
Okay.
2 and leaving 2 out.
In fact,
Steve, that only works if everyone votes for 4.
Right.
Yeah, you have to vote for all 4. You have to put all 4 in there. Otherwise, the firm you didn't like gets 0 points, they win. Or you could do it in reverse. 4 points is my
The
first,
highest.
my high. That, well,
That makes more
that's
sense.
more climatic, because I got the highest score, so. Is that,
I'm
all right, so we need.
Yeah, I think that's less complicated.
Because I think these
We need a ripple
categories
out.
are very
You know,
difficult.
I think we
graphic
want it to be
presentation.
Okay,
private.
private, okay.
Mhm, and then we
It's
just.
all public, but.
No, but each vote, you know who it is. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
We
9.
could trust
No,
you to
seven.
each
You
write
get
it down.
7 votes, but they're private.
We could trust you to each write it down on a piece of paper and not change it.
Do you have
Just put it-
sheets of paper?
Here, I've
I
got,
can do
So
that.
we can write on the back of
Let's
this.
write on the back
Write
and
on the
just
back.
turn it in.
I don't
So
have the
the
back.
4 is the highest ranking.
Oh, you have
Let's
another
Okay,
just-
so wait, which firm,
People
do you
should-
want to list the firms?
So 4 is your first choice, 3 is your second choice.
Okay. Do we want to list the firms as to the way they presented to us?
Want the names?
HMC.
you want
So
to
the
do,
first
The
firm
first
that
firm.
presented was
Okay.
HMC.
wait, do you want to do, a series of voting on certain things?
No, this is gonna be easy, Dee, just watch. So the first one that presented was HMC. That was Beverly, Pryor.
Yes.
Okay, then the second firm was BMS, which was Barbara Maloney.
Right.
Okay, then the next firm was LPA, and it was the Frank and those guys. And then HKS.
Okay, so now we rank them,
But
4 is,
do you-
4 is the
4 is your
lowest.
top firm.
First, your top firm.
So 4 is the top firm.
Right.
So write dash 3 down, 4 down, order of
Right,
presentation.
so let's go through it. By the way, it is often done, you can put a number up there and you can say, after listening to the discussion, I realize maybe I gave them greater weight, I'd like to change my vote. This is, again, you have to come up with a rational reason for it.
Should we have more discussion? Do you want to have discussion where people vote?
you can do that, or, I mean, Jim is suggesting, you know, there may be two firms that stand out as
Look,
outstanding.
why don't we do
What are
the
we
first
gonna do
round
then?
of voting,
I mean,
count it up, and if there's two that are close, have a little
Then we'll have a
discussion on them, and we could
discussion,
re-vote.
I think that's fine.
If
Does
you
that
get the
make
zoning
sense?
But I
board,
just think we need to clarify that the entity that you think is number one, you're gonna give 4 points to.
That's correct.
And
Right.
then-
And the last person,
I know,
you're gonna give
it's-
1
So it's
point.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody has to be on the same page on that, or else.
Exactly.
and if we
Let's
all,
just-
if we all agree,
Yeah.
if we all
Let's
agree
turn it
that
into
there's
six.
one company that we want, we can then make
Yeah.
up the rationale.
Well,
You didn't just say
Right,
that.
I didn't.
You really did
I
not
would say,
say that.
I would put it slightly differently, but I believe you would have supporting information to support that decision.
Okay, Corey, do you want to pick him up? Is he our neutral?
Look, I'm sure we all trust other,
Was it
you know, we just go around the room
Yeah,
starting
you
with the
can, since you're
mayor.
not voting, you pick him up, then you
Well,
can
there you go.
tally him.
How could you be any better than the mayor?
And then you can tally him on the board.
Let's see where we are.
Yeah.
We need more discussion, more clarification.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's right, because you got a public hearing. Can I help tally? All right.
I think George is perfectly capable.
George?
No, tally ho, George.
Oh, come on.
So, you're gonna put point in.
Why don't you just go for it, start on.
You make these jobs so hard. Give them-
Well, imagine, the most contentious ones that I'm aware of are when you're evaluating people to be hired as firefighters,
Wait a
where
minute.
they get down to the hundredths of a point
Oh.
for
No, but see,
the
no,
top,
you did,
because
wait
you.
a minute,
I- I'm
somebody
in the process
did
where
2
12
voting ranks,
200, 1,200 people for 4
one
of
at the top and one at the bottom.
No, that's not there already.
Is that Phil? Okay, Phil.
What's that?
They didn't like your paper, Bill.
Do it on the back.
It's right there.
Oh, at the bottom.
That's
On
it.
the bottom.
Okay, well, I was looking at the top.
That's how I got
You know, the problem here is what
So we're looking at the bottom.
The problem is the committee.
We're gonna have fun.
It's a good thing there's.
It's just
no-
all of that.
It's gonna be a little stressful time, but it's gonna be fun. That's all right.
You're gonna be all over the place?
Yeah, it's very clear.
Look at that.
They just work like, they came ready.
It's unanimous.
Yeah, it
was
was
It
clear.
certainly makes it easier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah.
And then there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Yeah, it looks
10,
like the
11,
MS
12, 13,
Yeah, let's-
14.
You
It's
know
probably
what?
worth discussion
I
on
think-
who's the second.
Yes, because if
It
we
is,
can't
it
get a
is.
contract with the first one, we need to know who's in
Yeah.
second place.
Yeah.
14.
Whoa.
Wow, that's.
Really?
Yeah.
2, 4.
Wow.
I would point out that in terms of the work plan, which was only preliminary by each of them, there were, it was 1,700 for LPA, 1,800 for
7
HFC,
times 4 is
and
what?
2,000 for HKS. BMS had quite a few, well, they were significantly under in terms of hours. So this would not have been a big tiebreaker. They were really in the 1,700-1,800 range, which is right where
Well,
HFC.
HKS breaks out though, right?
Do people
They're
wanna-
2,000,
Yeah,
HKS was
Yeah,
2,000.
there
HKS
was-
was 2,000.
Well, there was one 2,000.
And one at 1,200.
And one at 1,200. The 1,200 would be definitely an outlier.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That was BMS, was
Yes.
1,200.
Yeah, that's gonna be like.
It seemed low to me, but,
And HMC was 1,800.
yeah. Which is,
Yeah, there was other firms, right?
they were the second highest in terms of number of hours.
What is the most surprising to me is HKS has very bipolar scoring, so some people put them
Right.
second and some people put them last.
Yeah.
So that might be worth some discussion,
I agree with that.
because that's where you're gonna get the breakout votes for the other two or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
I thought HKS was individually talented, super talented. Each member, I didn't think the team was cohesive. I thought they were fractured. I thought, Crystal's gonna be our public face, she didn't seem comfortable. She's gonna be the one, Homer, Hobart Palmer, or going out to the
Right.
meetings, she's not comfortable. She's looking at her laptop, she's kind of nervous, anxious. Her references said, the one I talked to, big project, no. She wasn't lead with the public, I was. She helped, she would present the boards. So that to me was a holdback. I don't think, they've never done a civic center.
Yeah. One of the
They've never
things,
designed one.
one of the things that I
No
kind of
police experience, no
Yeah.
outreach.
understand as far as the police, designing a police, but
They've
as
never
far,
designed a civic center.
no, but so if we were
Yeah.
just looking at, one of the things that I kind of liked about them is that they have designed gorgeous public spaces, hotels, other, gorgeous environments, and they're the only ones that kept saying that they're wanting to create a heart of Atherton here. And they used the analogy of the East Coast public space. And
Village Green.
the Village Green,
Uh-huh.
which that really resonates with me. And so as far as maybe getting an architect to build the police station, that would be the next phase. So if we're just looking at a master plan of streets and reconfigurations, they're the only one, in my view, that talked about that.
They don't do that. So,
They do
they
that.
don't reconfigure streets. Mm-mm.
They're the ones that asked about it, though.
No, they don't do it. Crystal didn't do that up in San Mateo, at Bay Meadows. She was given a grid. Here's the grid. You get 5 blocks. Here's where the streets are, what goes inside them.
But they did it in
And
In
Fremont.
Fremont, they do.
Sort of. They didn't they had a hole in the donut. That's what she called it. So she came in and filled the hole in the donut. It's a different thing.
Well, I think that they were very creative individually, as Steve said. As individuals, they're probably well-known to everybody. But I looked at them and I said, who's doing what? One person's talking about the street, they're interrupting each other, finishing off things that just, not to help each other, but to sort of interject their own ideas, superseding the previous speaker. So I had a real problem with that. Like the road came up over here, but it didn't come up over here. So in the final design, it's a master plan. Who's going to be actually executing this? Because they're all individually talented. And I didn't see how it was going to come together. It was a little confusing, but I think they had some very interesting ideas.
Yeah.
That's it, though.
Yeah.
I thought they had some interesting ideas, but I think they're gonna fumble the outreach. I
Yeah.
don't think they've got a prayer of figuring out what to do with this town, the outreach, not a prayer.
What I
think
liked
they did.
about number one was, first of all, I think they really wanted the job.
Well, they were very
Came
enthusiastic.
across. They were very enthusiastic, very personable, and it looked like they could all work together.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I liked about them. But they maybe need to work, or maybe they don't, but they really seem to really want this job. And I want somebody who wants the job.
I do too.
Well,
I think that's really important.
Yeah, they want, I think anybody, all 4 of them in some ways told us they wanted the job.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
So
Well, there's always that, but
all right,
Or says
so
they believe.
number 1, the group presentation, and whether it's 1 of them or 4 of them, was so, I think, positively enthusiastic that you could put them up in front of any residence group or a big meeting with some angry people, and
absolutely.
they would listen. I think they would be able to turn the people around, they would include them.
We were talking about HMC.
HMC.
Yeah, oh, no, they're,
And
I don't,
so,
we
you
can
know,
talk
I
about it, but everyone loves them.
Yeah, so, but,
So
number
who's our
2
second choice?
It looks like number 2 is BMS.
Well, we should talk about why some people didn't like them.
I wasn't sure that their public outreach approach was very subtle and quiet,
I didn't like them.
much more laid back.
Not dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
Barbara's
was
kind of
very-
mellow.
I was very worried about the mellowness.
Yeah.
Or that,
Right.
yeah.
No, me too, that was my only
Low-
fear.
Low energy.
Okay, so-
Low energy.
So just to pick up on one
Yeah, low
point,
energy.
so when we're looking at BMS, LPH guests, they're all so close that you can't really say, what is there about one versus the other. I think clearly there's no comparison between those 3 firms and HMC. But if we have to pick a number 2, then for me, BMS is like totally out there. I can't imagine that we would think they were number two. There was two people that showed up, they were half asleep, there was no enthusiasm. I mean, I wouldn't hire them to design a doghouse.
But they had the
What
skill
this?
set. Sorry, I interrupted you.
They did have a skill set.
They have the skill
They
set.
had the skill
But
set.
I didn't get that from the presentation, only
No.
from the proposal, you know?
So
And that's who we're dealing with, is the people that show up.
But didn't they, I would have to look at the feedback again, I thought they had very good feedback on their public outreach, on the references that we got back on BMS.
But you do get that from the people that showed up.
You know what I
That's-
No,
thought?
that's what I kind of had a tough time reconciling that.
Yeah.
Their presentation compared to the references we had with how strong their community outreach was.
And I think what that says to me is they didn't really care about the project enough to send their top people.
Okay,
That-
that's fair.
That's what it
Well,
says.
they
Oh, no,
should
no,
be
no,
for
that was
principals,
the top
those are,
people.
that's where the top.
Oh, well, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, Barbara Maloney's number one, and
What's that so far?
then the other woman was the landscape architect. right?
Paige Martin.
She's actually an architect.
Oh, with Barbara, okay, and Michael
No,
couldn't
no,
come.
she was with another firm.
Yeah, and there,
She's-
Michael,
she's a top
Yeah,
person.
Michael couldn't be here, but she's lead, but Barbara's lead.
Okay, so then,
Yeah.
so from my perspective, BMS is out and HKS is number two only by default.
And
So,
they
yes.
only have 1,200 hours logged.
And why do you
in
like
the
HK's
proposed
better than
BMS.
LPA?
LPA, they didn't come across as being an integrated team. They've got scads of experience. There's no question. They've got more experience of civic centers than all the other firms.
Geographically challenged.
I think
Right.
that, yeah, to me, they didn't come across in the original presentation, original proposal that they made as being, as having the interest in the project. And what I originally didn't like about them, and it came through again when we interviewed them in person, was their project plan was non-existent. The original project plan was they took the list that Gordon gave them and just reiterated it. Here's Gordon's list, that's our project plan. There was no definition of how they were going to accomplish anything that was in that project.
And
in-
did
in
you
the
feel
list of
that
activities.
HKS did that?
Yeah, I think they did, yeah. We didn't talk about it so much today, but in their proposal, they very
But
clearly.
they had no public outreach in the proposal.
I agree, I would, and that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
about
So I
I'd
think
be
that,
troubled with those.
Yeah.
well, let me see what I think. I think that was a real weakness with HKS, but I don't think that we're gonna look to a consultant to lead in the public outreach. Our community isn't gonna look for a consultant to tell them what to do, they're gonna look for us.
But you're
And
gonna be
wait,
able to
let me
fill that
finish.
room.
Not necessarily.
I actually thought that Carrie could present fine in front of the group. I did see the discomfort between them, and they didn't focus on outreach in their materials, so I think that was a real weakness for them. I voted for them second, and the reason I did is because I think we have an opportunity to build a space that, you know, it's gonna not be a big deal. We don't have a lot of money, but it has a potential to really be a statement. And they've done beautiful things. And I want to see us do something that's beautiful within our budget.
Yeah.
I think the people in Atherton would be impressed by HKS.
I do too.
And I think to some extent, that would be helpful to us to get that approved.
That's why I chose them as number two. I have a lot more confidence in HMC. But I gotta say, the recommendation I got when I did my referral check was for Christine. And
She
it's
was
sort of
pretty good.
typical
I like
to
She
the
was
problem.
very good.
It's
Yeah.
typical to the problem we're pointing out. The guy they gave as a reference didn't know the firm HKS, had never heard of it, didn't know any of the other three people,
Perfect.
but thought the absolute world of Christine.
Yeah, no.
And he did the
That's
Stanford
probably
Law
why they gave
School
him as a
terrace.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably why they gave him as a reference, just for her.
No,
She was
she,
good.
yeah, and that firm got
Yeah.
great references.
Yeah.
The office of Cheryl.
I mean, I'd love to work
They're
with them.
award-winning, I mean.
Yeah.
they're-
I think from a public outreach, part of it is, do the people
Yeah.
feel like
No,
you've
she
got
was
a firm,
HK.
Behind you.
They just left.
a firm
They just
that
left.
has done nice things and that you can trust. And I
And kind
think
of locally,
based on that
local
basis,
things.
HKS would be helpful.
Right, and local identity,
Definitely
local icons that people can identify with.
If that was the case, I would just make the suggestion that if HKS ended up being a backup, that Bob Glazier would have to be in on the community outreach. You
Yes,
know, I
I
mean,
mean, he's
he communicates so well,
yes.
and just has a dynamic personality. He's got an enthusiasm behind his presentation, more so than Crystal.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
he'd have to be
Well,
involved.
between, if he and Christine did it,
Yeah, that would be perfect.
it'd be easy.
Yeah.
And it's a master plan, so
Right,
you're
it's a
not
master
so worried
plan.
about, they're not designing the safe room at a police station there.
No.
But there are some things they said that to me were a little pedestrian and a little like, come on, guys. Like in the hotel, we put security where you would put the police station in the civic center? I don't think so.
No.
Like, you know, they're watching the till in the hotel, they're looking in, and in the town, they're looking out, you know? It's different-
Actually, I think that was an
you know?
embarrassing statement. They were just trying to fill the answer.
It was BS, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So do we need to vote for number 2 between the other 3 again?
Yeah,
Or just agree upon
Yeah.
switching it.
And then, and the way we've done this is we've all done it,
Mhm.
so we just have the
On the
same
closed ballot.
process, yes.
For number
you
3,
got paper?
okay?
Sure.
Get 7 more
So
sheets
one,
of
two,
paper.
three.
Yeah,
While you're
It's
doing
up
that, I
over
just
here.
wanted to make a comment, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Please.
yes, certainly.
With respect to HKS, I guess I have been listening to them. You know, the public engagement part of this and the community and public outreach part of this is gonna be extremely important, particularly with the master plan side of things. That's where we're gonna get what people think about the there. And there's a difference between a commercial project and a public civic center type project. In a commercial project, you're kind of selling and persuading your audience as to the benefits of having this building there, in my estimation. With respect to a civic project, their goal is to get feedback and solicit the feedback from the community and what they want to see in the community center versus, you know, why this downtown building is going to be a great public space. And then, yeah.
So how does that make you feel, George? Can you?
I didn't really like HKS. I felt uncomfortable with them having no public building experience, and it was all commercial. And yes, I can understand Councilmember Dowdy's and Mayor Lewis's comments that these are high-quality facilities that they built and known commodities and name recognition that will resonate with some residents. That being said, if they're not gonna do a great job of public outreach, we're not gonna get what we want at the end
How'd
of
you
the day.
feel about the other two?
I was more, BMS, even though they were a much lower key performance, I think they were perceived much farther down because of who they followed. The number 1 had the big visual charts, and that just blew everybody away. And I don't think any one of these firms would have come in high if they followed that presentation.
Good call.
So do we
Okay,
want
so
to vote
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, and 1?
Yeah, well, can we just
Just write it below.
write it below?
Oh, yeah, that's no problem, I was just wondering.
Just wondering what happened to the eraser. It's not the budget, George.
Get a different
I know.
color, yeah. Do we have,
Blue.
our slash?
Circle them or something. Yeah, you can, this time.
Yes.
I actually feel fine.
Thank you. Drum roll, please.
I missed
HKS, BMS, and LPA. Okay,
Yeah, that's-
HKS 3, BMS 2, LPA 1.
Nice job down there. Yeah, this was down there last week.
Yeah.
HKS 3, LPA 2, BMS 1.
The tough thing for me was the most important guy on the team was.
LPA 3, HKS 1.
Yeah.
BMS 2,
Frustrated toward the end,
I think
That's it, he
HKS
just sort of
3,
says himself.
LPA 1.
but it was a little visible to me
HKS 1, LPA 3, BMS 2.
Yeah. He wouldn't be, he would not be enjoyable.
BMS 3,
But the most important guy would hear.
HKS two,
The guy who's got the
and
talented.
BMS
These two
three,
guys are the four principals that are gonna work on the
LPA
firm,
one,
the two guys who have the
HKS
least
two.
hours. The two guys who put the most time working. One guy, because there was his family, probably his family. The other guy, they didn't explain why, but he's the guy who's spending the most hours in the project. I think he's the guy who do the minutes and everything else. But anyway.
We have a tie.
The runoff, so take LPA out and give it runoff.
Look at
weren't they
that.
the firm that was the fourth one that was invited when you did the scoring before?
Right,
LPA.
yeah.
Yeah, they were
added.
but they were added in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now we have.
LPA's
a
out
runoff,
now,
huh?
so they're out.
So we're back to
You
the
can have a
original
runoff.
three.
Little mud wrestling or?
Yeah, I have a runoff. You got more paper?
Can't we just have a roll call between the two of them?
Well, yeah, you could raise your hand. for
Raise your
those.
hand.
Yeah, you could do that.
If, yeah, that's fine. If you
I-
assume the 2 3s from LPA go out, the next person to both of them voted for was BMS,
Just
right?
tell-
The only 2 1s in HKS are the 3s for
Let's just do
LPA,
it.
so.
Oh, we could just do a raise your hand.
Let's
Do you
do
want
a raise your
BMS or
hand.
HKS?
Who
Yeah.
votes for BMS?
Okay. What's it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
That's-
that makes it
BMS,
easy.
Yeah,
That's it.
Well,
all right. All right. We just have to get Barbara to get more cheery.
Well, I think.
So that's number one, that's number two.
I-
No, BMS is number 2.
I think.
BMS is number 2. I can tell you, I've used HMC before, Beverly prior. I don't see any problem negotiating a fee.
Yeah, let's hope that we get our first raise.
So,
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
let's
the
go
first
there.
one was so much,
Oh, good.
it was head and shoulders above, so, you know.
They came in and just, they had that whole board, they had the guy just, she was like,
Oh.
how do you get this guy for council meetings?
Yeah.
Right away, put
It's,
some stuff up
he's
there.
gonna create art for the new building, you know?
Oh, awesome.
Awesome.
It's HMC and BMS is saying, but Gordon assured us, he said, I've negotiated a contract before with HMC. It's not very
Okay,
So
Gordon,
he
it's
thinks
your
we'll
fault
get
if we don't get them.
Who did we vote for number 2?
All right.
BMS.
Are you telling us what their price biddings are
We now
now?
know.
I don't know.
It was fun, it was
I haven't
collaborative.
No.
Oh, I thought they gave us.
They
Well, but
did.
he hasn't opened them
But-
yet. He does have a video.
We assure the integrity of the process
Yeah,
that says this team votes for, based on quality.
Not on the
Then
price.
I open the one envelope and say, what is their fee? And say, we can't afford that. What can you do for half that much? As a
okay.
possibility.
All right, let's bring our, we're running pipeline
And
here.
what else is on our
Okay.
agenda?
Well, I'm gonna bring it back to the committee here because we've done item number 4, which was the interviews, and we discussed the recommendation to council. So we have a committee member, an ad hoc team who's gonna write the recommendation to council that we,
Let's talk about that.
We do?
Well, I think there's some minutes, us, you, me, and
Okay, we're going.
Clive, and Paul, is that the 4 of us that met that night?
No, Paul.
Yeah, it was the 4 of us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I can't do it, so I don't know if somebody else, I can review it.
Okay, Gordon, you want to start it?
Well, I was gonna say, I don't have any problem, based on what you've done,
Just summarizing.
to summarize the process, because it's a process-related memo. It
Okay.
says, here's what we did, and, I did da-da-da-da-da, the team did da-da, and selected selected HMC, as in one firm, and then,
Can we say, can we give you some superlative reasons why we like them?
absolutely.
Let's do that right
I
now.
Okay.
welcome that.
Can we, because I think they would be a wonderful face with the public, and they lead a great public outreach process.
so can you kind of couch it within the matrix?
Yes. The firm is, well, then you're just gonna say the firm is highly
Extremely
qualified. The principals who are gonna work on it are the ones we want. Their
They
graphic,
work well together.
the material, yeah, they work well together, the team worked well together.
A lot of enthusiasm.
The graphic presentations were incredible.
Yeah.
They are far beyond anything else,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
wanna
know,
say
you know
that.
what, I
Don't
wouldn't
say that,
because
just don't say that.
the other teams are gonna be looking at this and
Yeah.
think, you don't wanna put
They're
that down.
technically highly
Sorry,
qualified.
I
Did they have a deep understanding of our project issues? They did talk about looking at the site, and they noodled ahead, and they flashed a couple of.
That was where they were weakest though. I don't think it was their strongest.
It wasn't their strongest point, but they weren't weaker than the other firms, right?
Well, their process, they broke their process down into analysis, design options, and then outreach finalization. I thought that was a very good way to break it down.
So that quality proposed work was well thought through, is that what you're saying, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be
Understanding the project issues was they seem to have a decent grasp of the project issues, is that what we're saying?
12 minutes.
We're sticking with the outline? Did you get that, Chris?
Well, I think there's enough things already that cover the outline that we don't have to say 50% here and 50%.
And the references spoke highly of it. Yes, the references.
Very, very
I
good.
think it's important that we kind of follow the matrix, because that's,
I think he's got it.
I've got
you
it.
got it?
At least
Okay.
I believe I do.
All right,
Let
good.
me ask this, were there any elements in any of the other 3 presentations or proposals that HMC did not mention that you'd like to say, you know, even though you didn't mention it, we'd particularly like you to look at, I don't know, sound attenuation or, you know,
Well,
We're gonna get to do that with that.
Well,
Yes.
but if I
As
had
a
to,
qualification.
but if I have to put it
required.
in their in
In
the
the
scope,
contract.
so that we make sure, A, that it's there as a measurable and in the monthly
village
report,
green concept.
and B, that we were paying for their time. That's all
Well,
I'm
I
asking.
think what we've talked about with them is to create a there, a heart of Atherton, you know, to create a sense of organization in our, you know, mix match of buildings here. And they did say that, you know, there's just no place to find an entry to our town center. It's covered with parking lots, and, you know, we've got to make more open space.
Sea of asphalt, I think they
Yeah,
said.
they said a sea of asphalt, yeah. So
Yeah, that was the,
they were aware of that.
that was really important.
That, yeah, so they were very aware of that.
I have
Town green, sorry.
Yes, Clyde?
I have one comment that possibly we could talk to them about, and that was their cost estimating. Some of the firms actually proposed to use an external cost estimator to really focus, and I thought HMC was one of the weaker firms in terms of, they were gonna do it internally,